Welcome to the messy middle of entrepreneurship, unfiltered and unapologetic. Uncensored Entrepreneurs, hosted by Stark Cod, Robert Wall, and Tina Torres-Wilson, brings you real stories from the trenches of building a business. Those late nights, hard lessons, big wins, and everything in between. This is where the truth about entrepreneurship lives. No fluff, no filters, just raw, honest conversations with founders who have lived it. So, if you're over the highlight reel and you're ready for the real deal, hit play.
We have an incredible guest with us today, Jay Sapovits. We're so excited to have you on, Jay.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So most entrepreneurship stories start with an idea and a laptop. This one starts with an 18-year-old heading west alone, a career producing legendary basketball broadcasts, a gambling addiction that took everything, and the slow, honest work of rebuilding a life from the ground up. Jay Sapovits has lived more lives than most founders will ever know. He's the founder and president of Inked Stores, an on-demand swag and merchandise company serving thousands of organizations and generating nearly $5 million in annual recurring revenue. He's also helped scale a company from zero to over $1 billion in under 5 years. But the real story here is what Jay lost along the way, how he found his way back, and why the version of success he's building now looks completely different from what it used to. Welcome, Jay.
You're right. I've lived a lot of lives. There's no way around that. Done a lot of amazing things, and I'm happy to share my experience with you.
Can't wait to dive in. So our co-hosts Robert and Tina are not with us today. So for those of you guys tuning in, they will be back with us soon. But we're going to dive into Jay's story. I think there's so much value that we can take away from this conversation. So Jay, you left home at 18 and you headed west on your own. What exactly were you chasing? And what did those early years teach you about who you were?
What was I chasing? I made my first bet when I was 13 years old. My dad took me to the racetrack almost every day of my life as a kid. I was his total along. Loved my pop, but definitely not the healthiest environment for a young person to be in. And I think I knew the minute I made my first bet at the racetrack, Brandywine Racetrack, 13 years old. Now, I'd been going for a long time before that, but that's when I made my first bet. I knew I was addicted right away. I mean, I could just feel it rushing into my blood, the physical craving that gets the endorphins that get going. And UNLV for me was, you got to remember, this is 1990. I graduated high school in 89. You might, I'll weave this story in, I promise. But a lot of times we get caught up in thinking that the word entrepreneur is synonymous with someone who's young. And Colonel Sanders didn't start Kentucky Fried Chicken until he was in his 60s. Entrepreneur and young get conflated a lot. You hear the word and you immediately think of the 28-year-old or the 20-year-old that has in these terms, a tech business. It's not the reality of what being an entrepreneur is. A lot of times it's people like me that either have done it for their whole life because they were unhireable in other situations, or they've evolved into it by creating some securities for themselves or got laid off or whatever it might be. For me, it was just really straight up. I mean, I had a gambling addiction and Las Vegas was the capital mecca, holy grail, this prize that otherwise didn't exist. Growing up outside of Philadelphia where I did, I would go to Atlantic City. And Atlantic City was fine, but you would always see pictures and images and the allure of Vegas. Vegas is Vegas. So my buddy's brother went to UNLV first. At 16 years old, I convinced my parents that I was going to go on a visit to the school as a junior. Me and my buddy, whose brother was out there, went and stayed with him for 10 days at 16 years old. If you've ever been to Las Vegas, you know that the campus is throwing distance to the airport. And I never stepped foot on the campus in 10 days, came home, told my parents it was the only place that I wanted to go to college. It was the only place that I applied to go to college. So got accepted out there. Again, through that same relationship, one of the roommates of my buddy's brother was on the campus radio station. I said, I'd like to help. My dad had a broadcasting vision and dream of his own that he never fulfilled. I started with the campus radio station. because I needed money, at that point lived in the dorms, I needed a job. Why'd I need money? It's obvious, right? Need money to gamble. So I walked across the street, got a job at a dry cleaners called Steiner Cleaners. And what I didn't know, Star, was that Steiner Cleaners was the cleaner to the stars. And it was across the street from the campus. I could walk from my dorm room. So now I'm on campus radio station. Lazy I've never been. I'm working at the dry cleaners 3 to 4 days a week across the street from the campus. Struck up a relationship with the owner who was there every day, hardworking guy from Cleveland, really blue collar owner, Vic Plassman. Think of him as a second father. I love him. And the clientele that would come in, and I worked the counter, was the who's who of Las Vegas. Executives of casinos, stars. We did Liberace's clothes. JJ Walker did commercials. Dynamite. We did Jimmy Walker's clothes. He did our commercials. One of the clients was a guy named Mark Ratner. Mark worked for the UFC in his later years, but he was the Nevada State Athletic Commissioner. They were the ones who sanctioned all the boxing matches and worked with the state and the government to do that. He was a client. He liked me. I liked him. The UNLV basketball team's radio production, his company produced it, and they needed an engineer. Not the most high-end, sophisticated job, but you got to travel with the basketball team because you're producing the radio show. I was on the campus radio station. He asked me if I wanted to work for him. In addition to the dry cleaners, I said yes. And I ended up traveling the country with the UNLV basketball teams of 1989, 90, 90, 91, which are the famous teams. Larry Johnson, Stacey Augmon, Greg Anthony, Moses Scurry, David Butler, Anderson Hunt. And through that experience, I stayed in the same hotel. I was with the team. I was on it, basically, except they never threw me the ball, which was good because I wouldn't score. But that exposed me to the big time really early in my life. I'm 18, 19 years old, and I'm with Jerry Tarkanian and Dick Vitale and Billy Packer and Jim Nance. These huge names in sports are all hanging around because this is the most iconic team in the history of the sport. And so very early in my exposure out in Vegas, I was running a fast life.
A lot of people do. I like how you talked about your childhood and the exposure that you had to gambling as a child and that perception. I remember being a child and taking my grandmother to the casino to bet on horses. We're in California, so there's limited things, but we do have the tracks. And so I would go there, and you're right. As a child, these things do look extremely glamorous. And so I could see them traveling off, going to school, and being exposed to that in a bigger light. So when you got to college, you were involved in the basketball broadcast, which is incredible. How did that shape your understanding of business, performance, and your ability to operate at a higher level? Because you've achieved a lot.
Well, I mean, nobody was off limits. Nobody was untouchable. I'm handling famous people's dirty clothes at the dry cleaners. When you handle famous people's dirty clothes, you realize famous people have dirty clothes. And then concurrent to that, I'm traveling the country with the most famous team in the world of sports, the UNLV Running Rebels of 89, 90, 90, 91. Snoop Dogg is wearing UNLV hats because of that team. That team is culture, and I was part of it. And by the way, the play-by-play announcer was a guy named Ross Porter, the guy who was the number 2 guy on the LA Dodgers broadcast with Vin Scully. Ross Porter was on television news as a sportscaster in Los Angeles forever. And he was an announcer for the Dodgers. So as an 18 and 19-year-old, I was with the who's who of sports. And it just gave me the feeling that they were the same. They were humans like I was. And they weren't to be looked up to. The group I run with, the entrepreneurial group and world, is we have a saying, and it's treat regular people like celebrities and celebrities like regular people. So you realize that when you live that life. And that's definitely, that was a very important learning very early for me to be able to be in the environments I've been in, not be starstruck and deal with people in a way that was appropriate for them to be dealt with.
And I can certainly see how that could lead to success. A lot of entrepreneurs are afraid to talk to high-level CEOs or owners of certain companies. They have this fear that that person is too advanced for them to communicate with or sell to. So I think that's a great message for our audience is just treat others like they're human. I'm sure that impacted your business. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how you got into entrepreneurship? And then I want to talk a little bit about the gambling and how that impacted your business.
I got into entrepreneurship because I got into recovery. So I'm 24, almost 25 years old. I was on the air doing a radio show in Philadelphia, mind you, the number one radio station for its genre in the country, WIP, at a very young age, by all accounts, on the path for success in the media business. And I was ready to recover, which is important, right? I was ready to stop gambling and ready to make a change in my life and get on with it. I needed something that filled a lot of time. So I started to golf and I took up golf and then left my job in radio and needed a recovery job and got a recovery job at a golf course working in outside services. It's the lowest position at any golf course. It's picking up range balls, caddying when it's needed, being a starter, being a ranger, pulling clubs out of people's bags, changing soft spikes, grunt work, the type of stuff that high school kids do. I was 25 at the time, got the job. I had a clarity of mind because I had gotten into recovery and my mind started to clear up. And when my mind cleared up, I saw an opportunity. I could get into the nitty gritty of it, but I saw an opportunity through a clarity of my mind. And without someone giving me permission, decided that I was going to marry a sponsor and a professional golfer and create an event.
Jay, I want to take it back just a little bit. Was there like a pivotal moment where you felt that you hit rock bottom? Did something happen in your life where you decided that you wanted to go into this path of recovery?
From the time I was 19, I'd been verbalizing it alone. You're driving to the casino at 19 years old with $20 in your pocket and you're telling yourself you have a problem and you need help. Seems like another lifetime ago, to be honest, when I say it out loud, but that's what happened. And then you get in and you gamble and you're like, oh, that was a mistake. I don't think like that. I had known for a long time. Think like that for 5 years. Talk to yourself with that type of self-loathing and personal angst for 5 years. You'll be tired too. So I was tired. I had met a woman. We'll be together 30 years, married 28. After some time together, she said, I'm not interested in this life. So I'm active in my recovery. You heard said in recovery, you can't recover for somebody else. There's a lot of reasons people recover. I wanted to, but her holding a mirror up to me and saying like, I'm not sticking around for this was a pivotal moment. There were some dark times too. At a high level, when you secretly don't think you're worthy of being loved and somebody loves you and they tell you that they're ready to walk out the door, it's decision time.
She sounds like an incredible woman. I know on this show, we talk a lot about our partners and our relationships, and being a business owner and having a supportive spouse can really, really be crucial. So thank you for sharing that point with us. I wanted to ask, when you're rebuilding trust and rebuilding your own identity outside of this, what did this process teach you about yourself that business never could?
I don't really look at the two as separate. I think you are who you are. The biggest thing for me was honesty. When you're a compulsive person or when you're an addict, I don't care what the substance is or what the addiction is. Could be online shopping, could be meth, could be alcohol, gambling, porn, anything. Those things are done in secrecy. You can't hide meth. People know, but there's others that you can. Food, you might gain weight. So it's harder to hide, but people don't know you're an addict. They just know you're gaining weight. The commonality of addiction is secrecy, and you're only as sick as your secrets. Your secrets are generally hidden by dishonesty. So the biggest change for me, this is 30 years ago, is I just got honest. I think if you live that way, it's super freeing and it allows you to be a better business person also.
So true. Just being able to reflect and being honest with yourself about the issue that you're facing. I like that. So I want to talk about Ink Stores. Walk us through how Ink Stores came to be. After everything you've been through, what made you say, I'm done? I'm going to do this again and start building something new?
I've been part of a few really incredible entrepreneurial ventures that scaled immensely and then had struck out on my own and wasn't successful. So had a real coming of terms as to my own abilities and my ego, which frankly, after my recovery for the 10 years just grew upon itself because of continued success. Being stores for me is a little bit of a reclamation in that it's able to take the things I love to do the most, which is serve, help people, but also be creative. I love merch and swag, tons of different ways to do it. Everybody likes wearing things with a logo on it. People feel good about it. Makes me feel good about it. I guess I'd say that I found something that I could dig my teeth into and roll my fists up and just be successful at it. For the longest time, I used to think that it was about the idea. It's not about the idea at all. It's about the execution.
I hope you're enjoying this conversation. I want to take a quick moment to share something that comes up a lot with my clients. Selling doesn't have to feel heavy or exhausting. I work with course creators and coaches who are tired of launching all the time and not seeing consistent results. Inside Pink Door Marketing Agency, I help them build evergreen systems that work in the background and bring in the right people with ease. If you're ready to sell in a way that feels aligned, visit pinkdoormarketingagency.com. Now let's get back to the show.
And that's what Ink Stores is. Ink Stores is a play on execution.
You've grown Inc. to nearly $5 million in recurring revenue. You're serving thousands of organizations. What's different about the way you build now compared to how you operated previously?
When you're post 40 years old, I think you have a bit of a come to moment, if you will. I think that what's different now is I'm a lot calmer and a lot more steady in my processes. I have zero reactionaryism to me at all. Something goes wrong and it just rolls off of my back. Not because I don't care, but because I know that the answer is not necessarily going to come to me in a minute, but I'm going to have to give it time and think through what the next step might be. Really patience, calmness, discipline, compassion, empathy, understanding. Things you get with age, Star.
I like that because so many entrepreneurs actually go out of business. They lose staff, great employees, because they are reacting to things instead of taking that moment to really pause and reflect. That's something that I've talked about on the show before. One of my first business classes in undergrad was about communications. And it's like, hold back. If you have something negative to say, wait a day before you communicate that message. And even when making very big decisions about business, you can make the wrong decision if you just react instantly. So yeah, I think you're right. I think that does definitely come with age, but it's very important. Let's talk about the merch, right? You talk about the merch creating community instead of clutter. What does that mean? And how does that philosophy show up in the way that you actually work with brands?
I think now is a pivotal time in brands because of the AI revolution and the AI movement. What I mean by that is nothing online is real. I'm talking to you right now, but we're going to cut this up into clips, and there's AI programs that could cut it up into more clips. So maybe I'm talking to you and maybe I'm not, right? It is real. We know it's real, but watching me, you don't know it's real. It could be somebody who's imitating me through AI, right? The only real presence you now have to capture a relationship, the imagination with your clients, prospects or otherwise, is physical gifting. We're at a pivotal moment right now where physical gifting really matters. As far as not creating clutter, merch should have a purpose. If you don't know what that purpose is, how many times do people order something? They think of it the last minute. They want to hand something out. There's 7 people at a trade show giving away the same 5x7 soft touch journal book. I think that you just need to be really purposeful as to what you order. And that needs to be based on what outcome you're trying to create.
I think that's great to talk about that point on AI because so much is happening with AI where people are talking about where we're going to be in the next even 1 to 5 years and how so many jobs are going to be replaced. And this is an important topic for all entrepreneurs. How do you stay connected with your clients and your customers? How do you build those relationships? How do you build your brand? And I think that you tapped on that really well by being able to connect with physical product and gifting is a great way to stay grounded and in front of people versus everyone else that's out there, like you said, using AI, creating content, creating emails that are not even personalized. I think you're definitely onto something there, Jay.
I hope so. This is what we do all the time, every day. So we're in it. And to that point, I don't claim to be the best manager of my money. I have a financial manager because that's what they do every day, all day. And that's what they're thinking about all day, every day. Chances are you're not going to have as much knowledge of promotional products. I've had in my home office today, this week alone, I've had 2 reps from manufacturing partners. I've seen over 150 products in person that I've seen, felt, and touched. So how are you possibly going to know what products are out there compared to me? You're not. I don't understand why you wouldn't engage an expert, whether it's me or otherwise, who actually does the work to find the best opportunities of items that aren't clutter or trash.
Take a pen, right? That used to be super popular. Now it's like people are throwing those away, for example. So I like the fact that you're staying on top of new products and creative products that people can really utilize and not consider it as clutter or junk. And I'm not saying that pens are a bad thing, but that's just an example.
Some pens are, some pens aren't. There's a difference in pens. For example, do you know how pens ink level is recorded?
I don't know how it's recorded, but I have seen the quality in some.
Do you think a pen that has a mile's worth of ink or 2 miles worth of ink has more value to you as a client and me as a branding person?
2 miles for sure.
Right. Double the usage of the pen, right? How are you going to know which one's 1 and which one's 2? I know. How are you going to know?
I wouldn't really know unless you put that information.
No, because you just see that the pen's 29 cents and my pen's 58 cents. It's funny because we get into promo gear and goods and we lose our minds. So it's like, you're $1, somebody else is 85 cents. I'm going to go with the one that's 85 cents. Okay. In what world is the cheaper option the better option? Sometimes it is. I'm not saying that you can't find a bargain or a deal or there's not a great opportunity buy. There is. But generally speaking, you either buy nice or buy twice. That's the way the world works. Now, you might have other factors and considerations, but don't tell me they're the same. Just own those other factors and considerations. It's not to say that one piece is bad versus the other piece is good. It has nothing to do with that. It just has to do with this intellectual honesty about what you're actually making and producing as it relates to merch that has your logo on it.
I like that information, Jay, when it comes to buying products for our business and branding ourselves. I had to actually close down one of my physical locations temporarily due to exactly what you said. You can buy one product and have to buy it again. And I had to find a new vendor, and that cost me business for several months. So I can definitely relate to that.
Was that your decision or was it someone in your organization's
It had to be my decision.
to buy the product that caused that issue?
I was purchasing the product from a vendor and I was very set on having a specific product coming from a specific place. And I was dealing with some quality issues in some of the shipments, as well as deliverability issues. So I had to shut down, really do my research, test different products, which I didn't think I'd be doing at that stage in the game, but I did. And then I found a perfect vendor, price points, quality, delivery. So, Jay, one of the topics that we talk about on Uncensored Entrepreneurship is about leadership. I know you value honesty and leadership just as much as profit. How does that show up when you actually run your company and how you lead your team?
My leadership style is really simple. I hire people, I give them trust, I stay out of their way and let them do their job. I try to support them to the best that I can. I've really changed as a human and over the course of my life have chilled the F out. It's really important to me that the people who work for me have a good life. I want everybody to feel, it is going to sound very Gen Z of me, safe when they come to work. I want them to feel like it's a good place, not dread Mondays. If they do dread Mondays, not because of me. I just try to remain consistent. I mean, there's nothing better than a consistent human being. Start up one day, down the next day, up one day, down the next day, not knowing who you're going to get when the phone rings or when you open the door. It's abusive. I don't want that around me, and I don't want to be that around anyone else. So I try to take a lot of the principles in recovery into my business and just treat people like it's the golden rule. But that's my leadership style. My leadership style is I often kid. I'm like, I wish I was more cutthroat. I wish I was a bigger jerk. I don't use the word jerk, even though it's uncensored. I wish I could turn it off and not care.
That's what I was going to ask you next. You're creating this incredible environment for your team and your staff. But what do you do when you really just have that employee that you can't keep on the team for whatever reason that might be? How do you handle that?
I think that in 14 years or so that I've been in this business, I've only let maybe one or two people go.
So you've done a good job at hiring then.
So I'm very open in my lines of communication with employees. And I tell them, this is where we're at as a company and this is what we can pay. If at any point you feel like you want to look for another opportunity, no issue. But we're not huge and your role matters. So all I'm going to ask of you is you just don't give me a day or two's notice. Minimum 2 weeks, maybe more. And if you're looking for something, let me help. Tell me what you're interested in. I had a woman who embroidered for me. She wanted to be a tattoo artist. She told me, Jay, I want to be a tattoo artist. I said, terrific. That's awesome. I happen to have a few tattoo clients. I set her up with conversations with those tattoo clients. Is this really what you want to do? Yes. She was going to school. She needed time off. She needed to adjust her hours. Great. No problem at all. And then when the time came that she was going to start her apprenticeship, she gave me 90 days notice of when she was going to start. And we were able to hire her replacement and she was able to train her replacement. The bottom line is I hired her out of college. I believed in her and gave her an opportunity. Isn't it fair that she treated me with that dignity and respect and fairness? Because I can guarantee you when she sat across that desk and asked me for an opportunity, I gave it to her. I deserve that as a business owner. So it's the culture that I've established. My number one person's been with me the entire time. My head of ops has been with me almost 6-7 years now, I think. I have one person who's inside of a year. Everybody else is working on between 2 and 6 years. I try to keep people because it's a good place to work and be and live. It doesn't feel like a job because we work. People know I value them as human beings first and workers second.
Well, that's a true testament to your leadership and how you bring honesty into the equation.
It's hard, Star. We have a start time at 9:00 and somebody shows up at 9:20 and the old man wants to rip them and be down their throat. It's hard. I have to be the one to internalize the pain of my old thinking and how I would never be that. They're not taking breaks every 2 seconds and on their phone. Sometimes I'll be in my office to start the day and everybody will be on time and I'll have 3 or 4 or 5 people gathered in the next office and they're catching up or laughing or talking and having fun. I have to guard myself from being like, hey, come on, let's go. We got to get some work. I have to tell myself, don't you want the people who work here to like each other? Isn't that good for you? Stop being an old thinking ass. These are battles I'm having in here alone. I'm literally suffering through these things by myself. It really is about just adapting and understanding because here's the truth. One way or another, you pay. So you either pay with the pain of not being exactly as you want and total 100% control, or turnover, unhappy employees, unhappy people, less work, and poor product. One way or another, you pay. So what do you want to pay with?
Very good advice. I remember those days, Jay, of just really feeling overwhelmed when someone was coming into work late. And that's why I asked you, what do you do in those situations? Because I've unfortunately had to terminate people just because of the constantly being late or notoriously calling out. But I feel the same way. Providing an environment where people can feel safe and they can connect with one another, it is huge and important. I think you're doing amazing there.
I don't think you can let it go to the point where it's a problem or an issue. I've had people call out. I have no issue having a conversation saying, hey, listen, it really hurts us when you call out if there's not a viable reason. But I just don't have people like that. They have reasons and people have lives. And I'm very understanding about that.
If the old version of Jay could see your life today, what do you think would surprise him the most?
Honestly, I don't even remember. I mean, I remember because it's good for me too, because I do a lot of work inside of detoxes and men's halfway houses, and I'm involved in recovery issues on a daily, but it's 2 different people. I think I was overtaken by ego, and now I'm a very humble person. That's the biggest difference. It's the penultimate difference, and it's changed my life.
Thank you for sharing that. So, Jay, where can our audience find you? Where they can purchase products and find you on social media?
I post every day on LinkedIn. I write every post myself. I do not use an AI tool. I do not have a coach. Comes straight from my mind, good or bad. And I post a lot about physical gifting, like we talked about, but also entrepreneurial ventures and my life specifically. Very easily tracked down there. And then email is jay@inkdstores.com.
Awesome. And we'll also have some links that people can connect with you below in the podcast as well. Is there anything else that you want to say or promote before we wrap up?
Promote, no. I will say it's funny. I keep this sign here. Do you see the Sapovits, established 2008? My wife gave it to me. You know what that means? Everybody makes mistakes, because nothing of significance happened in our life in 2008. My wife made a mistake. She meant 1998. That's when we got married, Star. We didn't have any of our kids in 2008. Nothing happened. So it's just funny because I opened it and I looked at her and I said, "What happened in 2008? And she looked at it and she goes, "Oh my God." The air came out from under her. Everybody makes mistakes. What do they say about life? Nobody gets out alive. So just chill out. It's okay to take things serious. You have to, but caring can be enough. Wherever you are in life, whatever that might be, whether it's a business situation or it's a life situation, you can move past it if it's not positive. And if it is positive, you're probably not that good. So don't take yourself too seriously. That's my message.
Great words of wisdom. Thank you so much, Jay. So, guys, don't forget to connect with Jay on LinkedIn. We'll also have the Inked website listed below so you guys can purchase merch for your clients and customers. Super excited about that. And Jay, thank you so much for being on Uncensored Entrepreneurs. It was a pleasure having you with us.
Star, thank you.
Thanks for listening to The Uncensored Entrepreneurs. If you're getting value from the show, take a minute to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you tune in. It helps more bold entrepreneurs find us. Until next time, keep showing up, uncensored and unapologetic. And we'll catch you on the next episode.